Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Britton's Hangout Hour, episode 29, I think. I've lost count. I've long lost count. But I'm here today with Colin from Colin's Corner. Very alliterative. If you'd like to introduce yourself, feel free. I like to...
First and foremost, I just want to thank you, Britton, for inviting me on the channel. It's always a great, opportunity to get to just sit and talk in these kind of less structured, long form type discussions. I really enjoy that aspect of BookTube personally. But
Mm-hmm.
as far as my channel goes, I primarily read and review adult fantasy books. I'd
Mm-hmm.
like to branch out and do a little bit more horror and science fiction. But as any reader can attest to, I feel like there's so much that I want to dig back to. So I'm pretty stuck right now, I guess, in fantasy. The last couple years I've kind of just been playing catch up with some of the big beasts of the fantasy genre, but still trying to, hone my reviewing skills and figure out exactly all the types of videos that I want to make. But yeah, I've really enjoyed just getting out into the community in this capacity and kind of learning a different aspect of this content creation. Like it's been very introspective to like read the books and then kind of try to internalize what they were about or what I took from them and then put that into words. So it's added an aspect of to reading that I found very enjoyable personally.
Yeah, no, I just put up my first review that I've done, like my first proper review that I've done in a while, and I was kind of rusty because I hadn't done it in a while. Because I've been doing a lot of discussions and yeah, yeah, just been doing a lot of discussions
Yeah,
and
I
other
mean, I
types
don't.
of
Are you
videos.
somebody that I don't usually use Goodreads or anything like that. Do you do Goodreads reviews or any like
That
written
was
reviews or anything like
that was
that?
what I was predominantly doing before I got back into YouTube. Um,
Okay.
so I would write reviews, and sometimes when I do video reviews, I'll link the written ones. So if people are interested in reading them, probably not, but I like to put it there for my own peace of mind. Um,
Yeah, I read people's reviews, but I've never really tried my hand at writing public reviews. But I do write my stuff out that I at least a lot of the main points that I like want to talk about in my individual book reviews. And I just wondered if that kind of if you do write your reviews for Goodreads and stuff, has that skill set kind of transferred to making YouTube video reviews, or is it a little different?
yeah, I mean, I'll admit I'm not the best when it comes to talking on camera. I've gotten better at it, but there's some people who are probably gonna be like, "Oh no, Britton, you're fine." I'm really hard on myself. Writing them is kind of easier for me because I write for a living. Uh,
Oh, you
at least
do?
at the moment I am. I work at my school's newspaper, so
Oh, that's cool.
but yeah, I write a lot, so it's been hard doing. It's been harder to do written reviews recently since my channel's starting to kind of take off. Um, yeah, it's been cool, but yeah, there is a difference, but in some of I feel I can express my thoughts better when I write them down, but with YouTube, there's that interaction which I enjoy quite a bit. So
Yeah.
I like reading
What type of
comments.
are you a journalist?
Yeah, I'm a journalist. Yes.
Yeah, what type of journalist are you? Like what do you typically write about?
Well, I cover a lot of entertainment, and sometimes I'll go around and see if my school's doing it. I've been really bad at doing it recently, but I'll cover I was writing one before I left because I'm going on vacation tomorrow as of the recording of this. Which is why I put up my new review today instead of tomorrow because my parents we're gonna be leaving at 12. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with that pressure, so I'm just going to put it up today and not worry about it. Even though it annoys me because I'm very structured. But, yeah, no, I usually just do entertainment because that's just what I like doing.
That's cool.
Yeah. Um, you are a teacher?
I am going to school to become a teacher, so I've still
Aha.
got probably close to 3 years left because I'm going part-time. But yeah, I'm in school to become an elementary school teacher. And currently I work at a pizza joint delivering pizzas.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't mean to laugh. That's
No, yeah.
I wouldn't expect it, I guess. I don't know.
It was kind of, so I moved out to an area that was about an hour and a half away from me when I met a girl who is now my wife. But I used to live nearer to a city, and at that time I was in the Carpenters Union, and it was a great job, great benefits, good pay, but it wasn't necessarily for me. I appreciate the stuff that I learned while I was in the union, but like I was kind of mentioning to you before we started recording, I've historically had some neck problems, and it's a lot of labor-intensive work, but the main reason I ended up leaving that once I moved out here was because of travel time. It was going to take me like an hour and 42 hours to get to a job site at 6 a.m., and it was really kind of making me like resent the work even more. So I decided to bow out of that and just kind of find another source of income while I was in school, because school wasn't a thing at the time. That all kind of happened after I moved out to where I live now. So
wait, like...
But yeah, I enjoy what I'm doing currently. I like talking to people. Gives me a lot of audio booking time, which is good.
Yeah, I'm sure you have to drive some distances, I guess, if you deliver them.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know if you've ever watched Mr. Nightmare, but every time I think of pizza delivery people, I always think of like the horror stories. Ugh.
I've never seen that movie, but man, there's some interesting interactions that I have. I'll put it that way. Certainly.
I'll admit, I wouldn't have pegged you for a pizza guy, but you know, that's...
Yeah? Hey, you know,
surprising.
I guess people surprise you.
Yeah. So, yeah, you run a BookTube channel. I was watching your favorite things tag video, just because I was like, yeah, whatever, you know. Sometimes I'll watch tag videos, because, you said you liked The Greatest Showman, and that damn song is stuck in my head now. Well, you know.
We're a big Greatest Showman fan family in this household. I remember there was one day, so I'm a sucker for like anything feel good. I love watching like America's Got Talent, Golden Buzzer presses, and you know, just stuff like that. And I see so many people do covers of that songs from that soundtrack, and I've always meant to watch that video. And I was like sick as a dog one day, laying in bed, and I just decided to watch The Greatest Showman, and I was like, oh, this was sweet. My daughter would love this. So I like built a fort over our, we have like a 4-poster bed, and I built a fort over it, and I was like, Haley, come here. We're going to go watch a movie. And I didn't even tell her anything about it. And as soon as it was over, she's like, can we watch it again? So for like a month, we just drove around like singing the soundtrack of The Greatest Showman, and it was a blast. We've phased out of it a little bit, but I still like the soundtrack a lot.
Yeah, no, yeah, some of the songs are pretty good. And I remember watching it a few years ago, and me and my dad were like, it's all right.
It's a lot more fun with a 7-year-old daughter.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
But yeah, so that was. We do love The Greatest Showman in this household.
Yeah, I mean, you read a lot of. I know you read a lot of fantasies. Like, what are some like fantasy series you enjoy? Because I also enjoy fantasy, but if you couldn't tell, because I know you watch my channel from time to time.
Yeah, so I'm in the middle of a bunch right now. Obviously, Lord of the Rings, which I actually just read for the first time last year. I had read The Hobbit in high school, but I never got around to like the main trilogy, and so that was like a totally just, I don't know. I loved it. I read it immersively, so I listened to Andy Serkis's narration at the same time that I read it, and I just kind of took my time with it.
I've heard that's really good, and
it was just
I do love the movies.
such a cool experience.
He's really good in them.
Yeah. So I dragged my wife to watching the movies, and I tried to convince her to do the extended director's cut versions, but I took what I could get, and it was just the regular trilogy, which was fun. But yeah, Lord of the Rings. I am in the middle of A Song of Ice and Fire right now. My first fantasy series, technically, that I finished was actually The Dark Tower by
Yeah,
Stephen King.
that's an interesting
So,
one. I have the Gunslinger over here. I don't want to pull it out though at the moment. Yes,
have
I do.
you read The Gunslinger?
I read the Dark Tower a long time ago. It's been a while.
Oh, you okay?
It's been a
It's
while, but I really like the weird uniqueness of it.
yes. It was a very interesting. Stephen King really largely is the reason that I got back into reading in the first place on a regular basis, fiction.
Great
And
writer. So
with 11/22/63, I actually randomly just bought it at a bookstore when I was at the beach like
that's
3 or 4
funny.
years ago.
That one
I
is
don't know why I was drawn
probably
to it.
that one's probably my favorite of his works, at least right now. It's kind of a tie between that one and it. But I like 11/22/63 more because it doesn't have that like weird stuff that it has. That kind of like
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, so that got me hooked, and then I, kind of that's how I found BookTube in a way. I just was looking for more Stephen King stuff, and it led to more of this, more of that, and then
Watch like
fantasy, and
you watch like
so
Mike's
yeah,
book
the
reviews
yep,
because he's a
Mike was
big
one of the first channels. I think
big
the
Stephen
first
King fan.
channel I subscribed to, I think, was actually Jimmy over at the Fantasy Network.
Yeah, I've had Jimmy on the
Um,
show. He's a great dude. I enjoy his
yeah,
videos a
I
lot.
love Jimmy. But yeah, I of course subscribed to Jimmy, and then I found Daniel and Murphy, and then Mike through the Stephen King wormhole, and it kind of just led me into fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephen King's Dark Tower was something a lot of people were reading, like doing read-alongs for a couple of years ago. So I hopped on board, and it was a very wacky first fantasy series to
Yeah, no, it's an
finish.
interesting one to start on because it's a Western fantasy sci-fi horror epic.
I don't even try to put it in any boxes. It's an experience.
Yeah, no, and it's one of those. I'm like, I can understand why someone might not like this, but I enjoy it personally.
I totally, if anyone's like, this isn't working for me, I'm like, I don't blame you at all. But I
Some
think,
weird stuff in it.
if you're down to get down with some of that goofy stuff, then it's such a crazy ride. And one of my favorite things about the Dark Tower series is everybody's rankings of their favorite books always seems to be so different.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, because well, there's sentient trains in the dark. That's all you need to know about just
Yeah.
the weirdness of the whole thing. It's
Yeah.
just, man.
But did you like the series as a whole?
Hmm. Yeah, no, I like I like the Western style, so I thought, oh, this could be fun. And then I read it, I was like, oh. Because
It's
it goes
kind of
into
a
some
jarring
really
experience.
bizarre directions that you would not expect. Like, they even meet, like, Stephen King at one point. I'm like, what?
Yeah. It was just a ride, man, and I was like I was on board for it. It was such a stark difference between the gunslinger and the drawing of the three that I was like, wow, okay. I mean I enjoyed the gunslinger. It was very atmospheric. I
if I
remember being
remember,
like,
if I remember right, the Gunslinger's like 3 stories, but he just kind of combined it into a book. If
yeah,
I
I think so. He was writing them for the science fiction and fantasy magazine, and he
uh,
released them in installments. I think there might have been like 5 or 6 even that he eventually compiled into the Gunslinger. So
yeah, I mean, I read like his horror stuff first. You know, The Shining and Misery and Pet Cemetery. I think Pet Cemetery is still his best like straight horror novel, in my opinion, anyway.
yeah,
Um,
that's a hard one to read at
but
times.
yeah, I think he's a good writer. I think he's a lot better than a lot of people say he is, and I think even he's sold himself short a few times. But you know, it is what it is. I enjoy them, and there's a lot of people who enjoy them. So, I think there's an art to Stephen King that a lot of people miss, but it's just my opinion at the end of the day. I do like.
Yeah, he's got a way. He's got a way to just make his characters feel so real, and I think that's one of my favorite things about like, if I take time off of his work, and because I love, he's still right now my favorite author, and sometimes I'll take like 5 or 6 months off in between reading a Stephen King book, and I'll almost forget why I love him so much, and then it's almost like 50 pages into another book, I'm like, oh, this is why. Like, I don't know. It just really works for me, his writing.
Too, because he's not like that hard to read, and
right.
His prose isn't like super dense or anything. I don't know the right word. Let's say it.
So you like westerns?
Yes, I do. I need to read more of them, but I like Western movies a lot. So,
okay. Have you read any other Western books? Because that's like a genre that I have not really touched, but I'm interested in.
I've read Cormac McCarthy's Westerns. Some of them anyway. I've read like Blood Meridian. I read All the Pretty Horses actually earlier this year. It was very good. No Country for Old Men, which I'm actually rereading right now, which is more of like a crime thriller. But anyway,
that's one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah, movie's awesome. I love. It's very similar to the movie, except there's like some parts that are expanded in the book. But yeah, movie's great. What other westerns have I read? I guess Iron Council from China Miéville. That's kind of a fantasy western, I guess, but.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wouldn't read that first out of the books in that series, but yeah, I didn't really love it, but it was interesting. Where's my westerns?
Have you done Lonesome Dove?
I have not. I want to.
I just picked it up in like a estate sale. I found this like bind up of Larry McMurtry books.
I know,
it's around here somewhere.
For one, I'm like, what?
There it is.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Oh wow, that's
this is a real old book.
Wait, is that a compilation?
Yeah, it's a bunch of them.
Oh my
Is my camera reversed right now? Lonesome Dove, Leaving Cheyenne, and The Last Picture Show, who I have a friend who highly recommends The Last Picture Show.
I saw the movie of that. I didn't love it, but I might need to. Maybe I'll read the book at some point and see how that goes. But I've not really read Larry McMurtry. I know like Lonesome Dove is a like considered like a great American novel. I haven't read it.
Nor have I.
It's a thick boy, so I'm kind of like, all right, I'm gonna have to like set some time. I don't mind reading like thick books. I mean, I got I have like the First Law over there. And I like fantasy, and fantasy has a couple of chunkers. So
that's another one I need to get to still. First Law. I've not read any Joe Abercrombie.
Good, very good. I was kind of let down because I finished the trilogy this year, and like I saw I don't know if you watched Tori Talks, but I watched her video discussing her like reading of Last Argument of Kings. It was crushing. She didn't like it. She was disappointed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, man.
Wow. It always does hurt a little bit when you just love a series and someone that especially a creator that you just like really love, and you're like, oh man, like that kind of hurts. You didn't enjoy that. It's nobody's fault, but it's just like, oh, I wish you would have.
Yeah, no, I mean, but again, like I'm mostly familiar with like Western films more than like books. Like I know there's like Zane Grey and Louis L'Amour, and I haven't read those guys, but I've heard they're good, Someday.
I'm not a big movie buff at all. I mean, I watch movies, but I don't have a...
Yeah, I remember watching your, I just mentioned it earlier. It was the favorite...
Oh, the favorite things tag.
Yeah, favorite things tag. And I was like, it's like, oh man, yeah, favorite movies. I remember you mentioned like, I'm not a big movie buff, but here's like some movies I enjoy, and I'm like, it's fair. It's a good list. Now I am.
Yeah,
I am more of a cinephile, but I've been so bad at watching movies lately because like I have a bunch of streaming services, and it's made me really lazy because I don't know what to pick. And also, I've been reading.
That's tough. It's like the curse of having choices.
I know. It's tough. And like,
I was looking at what I said for my. Well, I said The Godfather 2, The Return of the King, and Young Frankenstein. Those are my answers.
Another good
That's
Western
pretty accurate,
movie is Blazing Saddles, though that's more of a comedy.
Never seen it.
Never seen Blazing Saddles?
Never seen Blazing Saddles.
So good.
If we start talking about movies, I'm gonna let you down a little bit. Not because I don't like stuff. I'm just not seeing.
Your daughter, but it's a hilarious film.
Okay, maybe I'll watch it with the wife.
But yeah, no. But for books, like I mostly read like fantasy and science fiction and horror and like crime. But with my channel, I try to just read whatever I want and just put up videos like that because, you know, I do find that there's like channels that have like a theme. And like, that's fine, you can do that. But, you know, I'm just kind of like, I want to do my own thing. So that's, you know, that's what I'm doing. And
that's cool because you probably don't really like ever resent making content. You just read what you want to read and you talk about what you want to talk about.
Well, the only times I wouldn't say resent is the right word, but there are times I'm like, oh man, because like there are some books I'll review and I'm like, dang, what am I gonna say? Because I like to think about books before I like review them, and I'm just like, oh man, what am I gonna say about this book? Now, generally I'll make it work, but some like there are some of the videos I've made that that you can tell I'm a little rusty and like. I think so.
I feel like we can tell that when I like am watching myself in the editing process, and sometimes I feel like it's a little obvious. But I did have a question for you. If you're going to review a book, do you try to do it soon after you finish it, or do you try to let it sit for a couple weeks or a month, or how do you approach that?
Like if a book makes me feel really strongly, then I'll probably be more prone to talk about it like not long after I've read it. But if it's like a book that I liked, but I can't really, formulate thoughts about it yet, I sit on it. So again, it really depends.
That makes sense.
Like, I read The Lies of Locke Lamora earlier this year, for instance. And I really loved that book. So not too long after I read it, I made a video about it. Because I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of thoughts on it, so... And then, there's some other books I'm like, I'm going to sit on this for a while, and then I'll do them.
I need to read The Lies of Locke Lamora. It's obviously one of the bigger, dogs in the arena, but it's just another one of those ones like I was talking about earlier. I feel like there's so much backwards digging I need to do to kind of catch up.
Man, that's like it's like when you finish one book, there's like 5 others you want to read, and you're like, man... Yeah, I mean, July's been kind of a rut month for me. Like, I picked up some books, and, like, there's one I'm really liking, but I just keep getting distracted. It's also kind of... It's a longer book, so it's probably not helping. There's some other fantasies I read this year. I read the sequel to Lies of Locke Lamora last month, which I liked quite a lot.
Is that Red Steves Under Red Skies? Is that what that's called?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I have it up. I actually have it up here. Enjoyed that. Others, I'm probably... Well, I was going to say The Vor, but that's... I don't want to get into that. I just made a video talking about it today. I don't want to talk about that right now.
Yeah, I saw you just posted another video that kind of right before we got on.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
but
like,
I did not get a chance
I don't want to talk about that right now. There's a lot of... Like, I could just unload on that, and I don't want to right now.
No?
Like, I'll talk about it, but it's like, it's just like, you have to read it first, and before it's one of those. Oh, God, what else? I guess The Changeling from Victor LaValle. If you like Stephen King, you would like Victor LaValle quite a bit.
I actually just read a Victor LaValle book. I read Lone Women.
Oh, yes, that's his new one. I want to read that. Another Western. So.
Yeah, I just, do you know Nala from Here There Be Stories? Have you seen her channel?
That name is familiar. I think I've seen her on Discord.
Yeah, probably. She's in a couple different Discord communities, and she mentioned reading that, and I think my book of the month subscription, which I am not renewing, is expiring very soon. But Lone Women was one of the ones that I chose for my book of the month, like I think 3 or 4 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "I'm gonna read Lone Women next month," and I'm like, "Hey, I have that book. I want to read it too." So yeah,
Yeah,
I
he's
finally got
very
around to
good.
that.
I read The Changeling a few months ago. Probably should have saved it for October, but I'm like, it's kind of a horror, kind of a fantasy. I'll read it. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it.
Every once in a while, I get a hankering for horror, not in horror season.
Yeah,
I
no.
love reading
Yeah, no.
Stephen King or just any horror, really.
Yeah, no. I mean, like I read a book from Dennis Lehane called "Darkness Take My Hand" last year around maybe, I don't know, July or so. I really enjoyed that. That has some horror elements. It's more of a crime novel, but
I think the more horror that I read, I am starting to kind of figure out, because obviously once you're an adult, at least for me, getting scared is a little different than when I was 11 or 12,
yeah,
watching
no, of course.
House of a Thousand Corpses or whatever, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Saw, all those fun
Wow, you were
movies that I
watching
was
like the
watching back then.
extreme stuff, huh?
Yeah. But I found that, especially the stuff that actually can get under my skin and wig me out a little bit is much more the psychological horror stuff that
Yeah.
can, kind of play on realistic thoughts, but just, maybe take them a little bit further than reality, but
Yeah,
still
the
almost,
humans being the real monsters thing. Yeah, I get what you mean.
yeah,
I
that
have
stuff
I
gets to
have
me.
like I actually just recently, I'll pull it out. I just recently got this in the mail, Between Two Fires.
Who's that by? Is that Christopher Buehlman?
Yes, Christopher Buehlman. He did Those Across the River, which I read last year, and I enjoyed, but the ending sucked.
Really?
Black Tongue Thief, which I was kind of disappointed in.
That's the one I've heard about. I feel like I've heard Mike on Mike's book reviews or a couple other people talk about that. And that author's name sounds familiar to me.
I've heard Between Two Fires is very good, and I'm definitely gonna read that. And it's in I do my like Halloween readathon, so definitely gonna read that for Halloween.
Is that what you do like throughout October?
Yeah. Or I would do it on like Goodreads and stuff. I'd have like a list, and I'd add them on there.
Oh, that's cool.
But like on YouTube, I'll definitely be doing it this year. Now I don't do like readathons because I don't know if I'm big enough to do that yet. To be honest with you, they're like, hey, does anyone want to read these books with me? And it's just like crickets in the comments section. Yeah.
Readathons and read-alongs, I think, are different. I'm in a readathon right now, the Battle of the Bands readathon from the Bookish Drummers channel. I don't know if you're familiar with Jake's channel, but he's another one of the first one I found because he talks a lot of Stephen King on his channel, and readathons are fun and they're like a good community event, but I just feel like I put too much stress on myself to to read, like power through books.
That's why I usually, unless it's one I really want to read, like I generally like, I haven't touched like something like Malazan with like a pole. I'm not. I mean, I'll read it someday, but like,
That's kind of how I was, and this month just happened to be the day. I'd intended to read Malazan for over a year. I've just been kind of like slowly collecting the books as I see them at Barnes and Noble, and then a couple of guys were like, "Hey, you want to do this?" And I was like, "Sure."
Yeah, there's some other books I hope to get before October that I want to do for that readathon, because I really like embracing the spooky stuff during before October.
Yeah, I actually this year would like to dedicate October to reading horror authors other than Stephen King. Because I need to really expand my palette there.
speaking of that, I am hoping to read The Outsider from Stephen King hopefully this Halloween at some point. I don't know if I'm gonna do it, but I'm wanting to. So
I'm actually listening to that one right now.
Oh yeah, how are you enjoying it?
I am loving it.
Awesome.
I don't know what it is. It's not been horror really at all, so much as like more of a detective novel thus far.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess in terms of like the audio hours, I think I'm like 7 or 8 hours into it, and I am invested. I will say that.
Yeah, like I want to read Mongrels from Stephen Graham Jones because I like werewolves a lot. It's also
I just picked up one of his short story novella collections. Let me see.
He's good. He's very good. I think you would like him. If you like Stephen King, I think you would like him.
That guy. Night of the Mannequins.
I haven't read that one, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
It's very short.
Oh wow, yeah. Perhaps I've seen those at Barnes and Noble, and I'm like, because
that's where I got it.
I'm like, I earn that big money now. No, I'm kidding. But I also read this book called Gone to See the Riverman last year in like June, and it was great. I thought it was a fantastic. It's like a very short book, like 165 pages. And I just picked it up because I like the sound. I like the idea. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'll pick it up, and I did, and it was very good. I thought.
I love when I do that. I just randomly pick a book up that I not because I heard about it somewhere. Or...
Plus, it fit the vibe too. that was kind of because it's like it takes place in the summer. It's very like it describes like it's really hot, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pick this up. And I started reading it, and I loved it. I thought it was really good.
One that I definitely plan on getting to, like for sure, this October is Imaginary Friend.
I've heard that's good.
By
I love Perks
Stephen Chbosky. Yeah, like what a pivot that is.
I love that book, and I love the movie. I'm like, man.
I've never seen that. I don't think I've ever seen that movie. Again, I told you I was going to disappoint you when it comes to movies.
I mean, if you read the book, you know, you'll get the idea. But yeah, no, I know, right? It's like what a tonal shift, you know?
Yeah. So that's definitely one that I've owned that book for. I found it at Goodwill like a year and a half ago, and I want to read that. Let me see what else I've got lined up. Oh, Clive Barker. That's the other one. I have Weave World by Clive Barker.
Oh, yeah,
so those two I definitely want to get to.
That is also one I'd like to get to. Also, The Thief of Always sounds really cool because I like the idea of that one.
Is that another Barker book?
That's another Barker book, yeah.
Okay.
And, like I know some people who are horror writers, and they're like, dude, Clive Barker, it's where it's at. I'm like, okay. I watched Hellraiser.
Weave World's big. I didn't realize how big of a book Weave World was when I bought it I found it at Barnes and Noble, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like 800 some pages.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm probably not going to start with this one.
That's the only one I own so far.
Yeah, I kind of just got it because I'm like, it sounds interesting, so I'll pick it up.
It does, isn't it? Like a tapestry that you can like walk into or something, or like that sucks
that's
you
like
like
the idea. I haven't read it, but like that's like the idea I got. It's like you can like walk into like the tapestry, and then you get into like this weird fantasy world.
This Weave World.
Weave World, yes. Yeah. Yeah, no, Outsider's definitely one I'm gonna cover because I've heard that one's like good, like modern Stephen King. So I'm like, all right, I'll give it a look. See how it goes.
Have you watched the show, The Outsider show?
Because I feel awkward about watching the show first or watching the adaptation before read the thing.
I do feel awkward about it now because I'd rather have the original source material's intent first.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also not somebody that I'm not somebody that really tries to like pick apart adaptations. Like I'm pretty cool with directors
Yeah,
taking
I'm the
leeway to
same
like
way, you
make the
know.
changes they need. I mean, unless it's just horrible, like, and they just completely miss the mark. As long as they're like thematically trying to follow what the author was trying to
Don't
portray,
watch the Dark Tower movie then. That's a.
I've purposefully avoided that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Not good.
Try to condense 7 books into one movie, and that's basically the gist of.
I'm honestly so irritated that that exists because I feel like it tainted the intellectual property and that people just don't want to touch the Dark Tower because I think it has potential. At least some of the books,
It should
like
be a show.
they could make a sweet show out of like Wizard and Glass. Would be an awesome show, I think.
I mean, I've heard Mike Flanagan is going to take the show, which I'm very much looking forward to because he's made some very good King adaptations, in my
Yeah,
opinion. My partner in crime, who I have on my channel a lot, his name's Jason. He does not like Mike Flanagan for whatever reason, which I don't
really.
understand at all. He's just like he's a movie buff like I am, so we're always like arguing about this. I'm like, why do you not like him? You know, you call him like your arch nemesis, and he's like, I don't like how his movies look. And there's probably other stuff I'm missing. He's probably gonna leave a comment going like, no, I don't like him because of this. Yeah. But I'm like,
Do you know if Flanagan did Gerald's Game?
yeah, it's an underrated book for one thing from King, but it was a good movie.
I watched that before I even knew. Like I think I just put it on. This was close to when it came out on Netflix, and I put it on, and I didn't even realize at the time that it was a Stephen King book. I loved that movie.
Yeah, it's very good, very good. I loved his Doctor Sleep adaptation.
I haven't watched any Doctor Sleep purposefully because I'd like to read the Doctor
Sleep's good.
Sleep stuff
It's
first.
it's a lot better than you would expect it to be. Because I remember I read it, I'm like, okay, a Shining sequel. How's that gonna work? And then I read it, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you watched the one video on my channel that blew up was, of course, my top 10 current Stephen King books, and The Shining is spoiler alert, my favorite Stephen King book. I just love. I think it's the setting.
Yeah, no,
It's such a
Shining's good.
creepy setting to me.
I do enjoy The Shining. I also love the movies. My second favorite horror film of all time. So,
Yeah, I like both. I like the movie and I like the book.
yeah, I'm the same way. Both are good. I know Stephen King is. A lot of people say he hates it. I'd more say he's more like ambivalent about it. Like he's like, yeah, whatever. Or that's how he is now. But you know, he has gone on and been like, this movie sucks. You know, I
Yeah,
like
I don't know if
both.
he ever said that or not.
No,
I've heard that though.
But like I said, he's more like kind of meh on it. He's just like, he more or less didn't like it because he felt it kind of missed the point of the book. And I'm like, yes, but that's purposeful. Because
You think?
the movie's like a completely different thing altogether. If you really think about it.
Yeah, I was cool with it. I really enjoyed it.
And, you know, I mean, you know, he's entitled to think what he wants. It's, you know, I do like The Stand a lot, even though I don't love the climax of that book. Is just, it almost kills that book, but you know, it's good. It goes through several genres. I really like how it manages to be like, okay, you're in a post-apocalyptic story. Now you're in an epic fantasy, and it doesn't like lose the tone. I really respect how he did that.
Yeah, I was along for the ride on that one too. I read the uncut edition, and I mean, there's certainly in a book that long parts that kind of dragged a little bit for me, but I also was just very invested in like seeing what was happening, how these societies were choosing to rebuild, and what kind of factions were breaking up. Like I liked it. The end again, like you said, was, you know, eh.
I think even King has admitted like he pulled that ending, like that climax, out of his ass. So I'm like, you know,
Probably. It kind of felt like that in a way.
It does. That's why it bugs me so much, because it's just like, here's this big build up, and then you're like, whoa, what? Yeah. King tends to struggle with his endings, which is why I like 11/22/63 a lot. because that ending is just.
That book is pretty darn close, in my opinion, to being a masterpiece.
It's one of my favorite time
Of
travel
Stephen
stories,
King.
for sure. And it's also cool because I've actually been there.
Oh, really? That is cool.
To where like the assassination happened, and because I live in Oklahoma, and now Dallas does take a long time to get there, but it's a good place. It's a nice place.
I know I've read about him talking about the writing process of that book, and he said he did an just extreme amount of research to make that book happen.
Yeah, no, it paid off very well. He captured the feel of that time very well, and unlike a lot of time travel stories, he doesn't get too caught up in the mechanics, which is nice.
Yeah. Have you watched the show for that?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, show was fantastic. The ending
I thought the show was great
made
too.
me tear up, and I'm like,
yep.
I am really I'm not a crier much. Like it's hard to get me to like the ending of that. I was just like, you know.
Yep. Same here. Yeah, I tear up. I've been known to tear up, especially with that book. The book got me 11/22/63. The show got me. Robin Hobb has gotten me a lot.
Yeah, Robin Hobb's one of those I hear like, oh, you should check him out, and then there's that little contrarian part of my mind that's like, I'll wait till like the bandwagon ties down. Like nothing against you or anything, or like nothing against the people who like Robin Hobb, and I'm sure I'll like her when I get to her, but I just haven't checked her out yet.
That's kind of what I did with Greenbone Saga, which I just released a video on today, and it was, I mean, if you've been watching BookTube for the last few years, it was just blowing up, and
I had a friend
people were like,
who interviewed Fonda Lee. That was really cool.
That's awesome. She seems like a very interesting person. I've watched her a couple of her like author interviews on like Daniel Green's channel.
But again, I'm also kind of waiting on that. It is a trilogy, so I'll definitely read it. But I'm not.
No, it's a lot of fun.
But
that was one for me that I like let the hype die down a little bit because I try not to let the hype dictate whether or not I try to like a book because I feel like I should, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Yeah, no, I've heard that's good. I want to read that. I want to read it at some point. It's definitely one I'm going to read. Because, I'm one of those guys, I like to stick with, like, trilogies or just, like, standalones. Now, I will read the occasional longer series, like, I like Harry Potter and The Dark Tower, like we were talking about, and, Game of Thrones. How are you enjoying Game of Thrones?
Oh, I love it. I'm on, my next book will be A Feast for Crows, so I've read the first 3, and you obviously know they're chunky boys too.
Yeah.
So
I want to read.
They're not really ones
to dude, they're so chunky.
throw in. I kind of spliced the audio in while because like I said, I deliver pizzas, so I get a lot of audiobook listening time, so I try to make use of that. But yeah, I'm loving it. I mean, Martin's like he just, the way that he writes his cliffhangers at the ends of chapters. I just like, I gotta go. I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going. I gotta know what's gonna happen.
I do have some issues with him. Like, for instance, I do think he does go on a bit too long. Like, the Game of Thrones book is an example. Like, I do think he should have just ended it at Ned getting executed. And then the next book can be all the battle stuff. But, that's not what happened.
No, certainly not.
Which, that always kind of... That's one of the things I think the show did well, is they condensed a lot of it down, and they're like, okay, here you go. Before it...
Yeah, did you watch all of the show? Were you a fan?
Yeah, that's actually how I discovered the books. I was on the show bandwagon for a while, and I read the books, I enjoyed them, and I watched the show, and I was like, oh, man. That didn't...
Were you a fan of the season 8 ending, or were you one of the ones that...
No, I remember I was sitting around. I was like, I was just shaking my head at some of the decisions.
Yeah, I was watching because I caught up a little late. I think I started while season 7 was still airing live and kind of caught up before season 8 was going to drop. And I remember a couple of my friends and I would get together, we'd switch houses and we would look at each other and like be literally like,
Baffled.
Is this actually happening right now? Like, is this a joke? Like, is this a satire for some of the things that happened? Because some of the way those character arcs ended was just I don't know.
Seen that Jackie Chan meme where he's just like doing this? He's like, "What?" That was me throughout most of it. I was like, "What are
or
you
like that
doing, man?"
that white monkey. Have you seen that white monkey meme?
I have. I don't think I. Or well, let me look.
If you search white monkey meme, it'll come up. That was me the whole time.
I'm sure it was. I mean, oh yeah, that's really creepy looking. That's really creepy. I have seen that, but no, I don't blame you. That's oh gosh, it's and it's like it's just it was not good. It was
I heard somebody say recently too. It would be really funny if the reason that Winds of Winter isn't getting finished is because the way the show ended was kind of pretty similar to how the book was going to end, and now he has to change everything because people were so pissed about the way the show ended. I don't think that's the way it is, but it would be kind of funny.
No, or if it is the way I'm sure it's probably going to be way better explained in the books. I would hope anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's I've made my peace with it, and it is what it is, and he hasn't put him out, and of course that annoys me, but I'm just it is what it is.
Yeah. So do you have plans to continue with Abercrombie?
Yes, I read one of the standalones, Best Served Cold, which was good, but I had some issues with it, so I'm like, okay. Gonna take a break from Abercrombie for a while, and then I'll probably get back to his books. I do think the first law is well worth the read. That it takes that kind of Lord of the Rings quest narrative and just flips it on its ear, pretty much. If I could describe it in simple terms.
Yeah. So, First Law and Malazan are two series that I hear so many people talk about, but I actually didn't know anything about really Malazan before getting into it, and it's similar with First Law. I know tons of people love it, but I actually have no idea what the plot of it is about, which I kind of like. I'm going in almost blind, other than knowing that most people really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm the same way with Malazan. I have no idea what it's about, rather than just it's kind of difficult, and they throw a lot of shit at you.
Yeah.
And there's a character called Whiskey Jack, which I think is freaking cool.
Yeah. There's his naming is awesome. He's got some really cool names.
There's some guy called Andromeda Rake or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Animander Rake. That's his name.
No, Andromeda's the Mass Effect game. Why did I say that? Some something Rake. I don't know.
So is his character work, Abercrombie's, is it as good as everybody says? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it's funny because it was one of those. I actually just picked up the Blade itself, just kind of like, oh yeah, whatever, I'll read it at some point. It was one of those where there's a lot of bandwagoning, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait a little bit. And then one day, I just had a voice that was like, you know what, I'm gonna read it because what the hell? I have that sometimes. I'm just like, you know what? I'm not really planning to read it, but I'll just do it. So I did, and I really liked it. I was like, dang it, this is really good. Yeah, no, it is funny seeing some of the people who've also covered it and just being like, oh, okay, I like character-driven stories, but this kind of pushed me a little bit, because I'll admit the plot is a bit light, especially in the first one. So, again, I don't want to say anything. But
yeah,
because you haven't read it yet.
No, I'm kind of cool with that. I think that I'm more of a character-driven reader, but not strictly. I really do enjoy a good plot, but I like variety in terms of what the focus is.
No. Okay, you're on. Yes, I'm podcasting right now. Yeah, I'll let you know when I'm done. Sorry, that was my mother.
You're good.
She's like, "Are you gonna what clothes are you gonna bring?" I'm like, "I'll tell you when I'm done with this." So, what were you saying? Sorry, I got distracted.
I was just saying, I think I'm more of a character-driven reader, but not strictly. I like variety. I like switching up plot-focused narratives and character-focused narratives, just to kind of get a change of feel, even if it's the same genre, if that makes sense.
In all honesty, I don't even know what I want in a book anymore. I'm just like, you know what? If it has these things, I'll enjoy myself.
I've been proven wrong a lot, saying I like certain things and then realizing that the thing that I didn't like that much and tried, I ended up loving. Like it's been a fun
But
journey trying to.
yeah, and I would say it is true. Abercrombie he does have a gift for having for like characterization and character voice, definitely. Because they're all like distinguished. Like I don't know how he does it. He makes it look easy. I'm just like, man, how you do it, Joe?
It's a talent.
Yeah, he has talent. That's for sure. Like a lot of people said he's like George R.R. Martin. He's more like old Sword and Sorcery, but like modern. But it's in like a modern lens, really. If I could like this, I don't know. Like, if you ever what Conan the Barbarian is? It's basically some of it's like that.
I know of Conan. I've never read any of it though.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would recommend the stories, but I don't know if you've like seen the movie. I know the movie's very popular and the movie's fun, but of course,
Nope.
My friend Jason loves that movie, and he's just gonna be like, "Man, he hasn't seen Conan. This sucks." I'm like, I don't know. You talk to him about it, but no, I mean, you might watch it and go, it is pretty goofy, and it is very goofy, but it's fun. It's good stuff. But yeah, but like it's more like Sword and Sorcery, while like Game of Thrones is more like epic.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Like the scale is a little smaller until like the third book, then it gets bigger.
Oh, really? Okay. Huh.
Like he goes into detail and explaining just how like tough it is living in that world, pretty much.
Did you do any audio? Are you an audiobook listener or no?
Sometimes. Now the First Law audiobooks are excellent.
That's why I asked, because I've heard that.
Yeah, they're great. I enjoy them a lot. Now there's some of them I've listened to, and there's other one like I generally like to physically read the books that I own, but there are some audiobooks that are very good, like the Pet Cemetery one that the dude from Dexter did, Michael C. Hall, I think. That is very good.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's some other ones. There's one book I've read. There's one book I love called Black Leopard, Red Wolf. The audiobook to that is very good. But I don't listen to a lot of audiobooks. It's not like I don't have anything against them. I just haven't I haven't indulged. It's hard for me to indulge.
It's been a thing that I've a skill set, I suppose, that I've
also
kind of learned to just kind of adapt to. Yeah, I can't do it for certain things, or I have to also be reading while I'm listening for certain things. But I mean, I'm able to do it. Like I've done some Stephen King via audiobook, and like you were saying earlier, his writing isn't too dense.
No.
So
no, he's now if you like now I mean. Now, like, if you read, like, Blood Meridian, the audiobook to that's pretty good, but it's, the language in that is very, like, I did a discussion on it the other day, and, my friend described it as biblical, and I'm like, you know what? That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, I saw you post that. I haven't read any McCarthy yet, but I own The Road and Blood Meridian.
I would recommend
I don't know
reading
which
the
one I'm
book
going to start
first
with.
before you watch that. Because we spoiled the whole
Yeah, I figured.
thing. Yeah,
I
I
feel like I
must
got to
say,
be in the right mindset to get into
I must
McCarthy
say,
book.
if it's a discussion, it's liable that we're gonna spoil it. So probably don't watch those unless you've like read or played or done any of that stuff. I don't know if you play video games at all, but I've done a video game discussion.
On what game?
I did the Last of Us and Last of Us 2 with a friend of mine.
Oh, nice. Nice.
And both our reaction was pretty similar. We loved the first game, and the second one we're like, man.
That's unfortunately how I felt as well. Did you enjoy the show? Did you watch the show?
I watched clips, and there were some of them. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is what they filmed. Like one of my
There were some
favorites-
aspects of it I really enjoyed, and then some I was a little bit iffy on, but overall I was pretty positive on the show.
Yeah, no, it's my thing. I'm a stubborn guy, so I'm like, why? Why are they making an adaptation of Last of Us? I got this great game right here. I can just put it in. I can play it. I can enjoy myself. It's like, I'm like, why are you making, like, there's some good actors in there. Like, I like Pedro Pascal, but it's just like, well, like, does this really need to happen? Now, it's probably some people, now I've had some friends who have just, like, harassed me to go watch it. So I'm probably gonna, like, officially watch it and see how it is, but it hasn't really appealed to me. It's like, you know, I
Yeah,
just
if you
wanna
watch
play
it,
the
I'll be
game.
interested to hear what your thoughts are.
But yeah,
I
I've
think
seen
the
some,
general audience, even the people that didn't necessarily play the game but just watched the show, the general reaction was pretty positive, I think. I think
oh
the
yeah.
most, like with most things, the people that played and loved the games and have for years, I think, were the people that really had maybe some small qualms with what was going on, but I don't know. Like I said earlier, I'm not too picky usually, and I really enjoyed it for the most
I mean,
part.
I'm not either, but but with The Last of Us, it's kind of different because it's like, it's a game. It's a lot like a movie or a TV show. Like, do we really need this? You know, that's
Yeah.
kind of my thought. There's probably some people who'll, agree or disagree. I just like, I'll watch it at some point. I just haven't gotten around to it. Admittedly, I've been like doing a bunch of stuff this year, so I haven't been playing a lot of video games.
Me neither.
But yeah, a new Star Wars game came out. I'm definitely gonna play. I just need to get a PS5. Dang it.
Are they still like crazy hard to get?
I saw that I saw somewhere that the price had gone down on Amazon, so maybe I'll nab one. But
Huh.
yeah, it's definitely something I'm saving for like a Christmas or a birthday type of situation.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's very hard to find any time for gaming nowadays with school and family and starting a channel. Like I feel like I had to choose to drop something, and gaming was just
yeah,
that
no, I
thing that
mean,
kind of fell.
I love the Last of Us game. It's very or the first one anyway. The second one, I liked what it was going for, and I'm more lenient on it than some other people are. I think some of the criticisms like blown out of proportion, but I do have some problems with it. Like it does drag a bit.
I think I felt very similarly playing through the part two. A lot. I mean, the first part is just my at the time fiance watched me like when we didn't even live together and we would just kind of hang out on weekends. I played through the game and she just kind of watched me play through the game because the story is just so good.
I know, right? It's like I was like, did she get sucked in?
Oh yeah. Yep, I just kind of played it on like the novice, whatever the like regular difficulty
Yeah,
is,
no,
so
I'm
I
the
wasn't
same
like
way. I just play it on the regular difficulty and I just start playing.
Yeah. I'm not trying to run around with like half a freaking bullet. Whatever, I mean I'm trying to have fun.
I mean, there's the people who like that kind of Dark Souls experience. I am not one of them. I like playing through it just with minimal
Yeah.
problems, Like, I started playing, like, the last game I started playing before I'd been on this hiatus was the South Park game.
What is the premise of that?
The Stick of Truth. It's basically a fantasy RPG. Just it's in South Park.
Huh. I didn't even know that existed.
Oh yeah, no, Stick and Truth. It's yeah, it's something, man. But yeah, no, Last of Us is one of my favorite games of all time, definitely.
I'll have to watch your discussions on that because I love that. I mean, I could always get a Last of Us fix. I love that game.
Now I'll admit the first one is a bit lower quality that we did, and I have thought about like re-recording that, but I'm like, you know what, it's fine. Second one is better quality though.
I will definitely go back and check those out.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, we spoil it, but, you know, you've played the game, so
Yeah.
They'll probably get a kick out of it. As for the show, no, I haven't watched it yet. I have complicated feelings on that situation, because it's like, why? I don't know if you've
I think, like, they were talking about making a show forever. And it finally happened.
Yeah. It doesn't look bad. It's just kind of, you know, I don't know. And I saw some clips. I'm like, man, this looks really badly shot. Because I'm a weird nerd. I'm a weird nerd for that. So you know, I'm sure you're probably.
Well, I mean, some people just don't even want to tarnish their view on the original source material on things. Like, you know, I've heard people straight up just say they aren't going to watch a movie because they just love the way that the books made them feel, and they don't want to have a second opinion tarnishing that or something. And I get that too.
Oh, I mean, I saw a clip from when Joel wakes up from after he got injured, and he's like better now, and he catches those two guys, and it's actually one of my favorite scenes from the first game because it's really intense.
Yep.
The way they shot it in that show is just, oh my god. It's just...
Yeah, it was a little interesting.
I didn't love it. I'll put it that way. I'll be nice and just say I didn't love how they did it, but again, I'll watch the show and get like, because I've had some friends who are like, oh, watch it, you'll enjoy it, and I'm like, well, I'll see. I don't want to bump it off yet. You know, I want to give it a fair shot. But
I think it's worth a shot, at least.
I love that first game. So, I'm just... It's one of those where I'm like, man, there should be more games like this.
Yeah. I don't know if there will be.
No. It's hard to
Probably
find, like,
not.
a good, like, quality story-based game.
Didn't it just win, like, Game of the Decade or something?
I wouldn't be
I thought I
surprised
saw some
if it
award.
did because it earned it, man.
The first one, at least.
First one, yeah. Second one, again, with problems.
Do you think they could make an adaptation of First Law, or do you think you'd ever want one?
Oh, I would. You know, it's funny you say that. I think it would be very well. I think you could do one. 3 seasons. You could make it live action or animated. You know, Joe Abercrombie has a very cinematic style, so I'm like, oh yeah, I could definitely see this be adapted, and you could do it
That's
very
cool.
well. I even had some people in my head as I was you know, reading through it. Some.
You've done some fan casting, nice.
A little bit. Like, who the Baez is the wizard. Like, there's a guy called Graham McTavish. I'm like, that's Baez right there. He looks just like how he's described in the book. And, except he's not like, you know, he's not like Tubby, because, he's described as Tubby. Like, fat, kind of.
Didn't Abercrombie just get some kind of movie or TV deal for one of his standalones?
Yes. That's why I read Best Served. It's Best Served Cold, and that's why I read
Oh, okay.
Is because they announced a movie, and I read it, liked it. Some problems I had with it, like, Joe does have a habit of being repetitious. Now, in the original trilogy, it's fine. Like, it's not, like, annoying. But, like, in this one, I was just like, okay, I get it. Move on, yeah.
Is it a prequel to the main series?
It's a standalone set after the original series.
Okay.
So you could read it by itself, fine, but like there's like some
Yeah.
arcs from the first series that are continued in that book.
Okay.
Like there's a guy called Shivers who's in it, who was in the original trilogy.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a guy called
If I'm
Costa
gonna,
as well, who was in the original.
I'm gonna do chronological order when I get to Abercrombie. I just wondered if it was what part of the story Best Served Cold was going to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, you can read it by itself, fine. You can read it by itself, fine. It's but there's just like some stuff you might miss, and I really it's tough when it comes to those things because people are like, oh, wait till this book and it gets better. It peeves me a lot when people say that. Because it's like I have to go through
It is kind of
crap to get to
irritating.
that. But I would say you can read it, but if you read it in chronological order, it's more meaningful.
Better payoffs.
Yeah, you'll be like, oh, this is what Again, you don't have to. You can read it, just fine. Because I haven't read any of the other, I haven't read the other standalones. I haven't read the other trilogy, and I'm gonna wait a while because, yeah, I didn't want to get burned out on Joe Abercrombie, and when I was getting towards the end of Best Served Cold, I was starting to feel it. I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah, that's a thing, author burnout for sure. I have to force myself to take breaks from Stephen King sometimes because I just want to roll through some of his books and then I don't want to end up getting author burnout.
What's funny about
You
King,
know?
he's a good palate cleanser. Like, you can, pick up Misery. Like, you might have, read, an epic series. You can just pick up Misery and have a good time with it,
Yeah, certainly.
Or I think so. There's probably some people who would pick some of his other ones. Like, I wouldn't use it as a palate cleanser, but, Misery, definitely. You definitely could.
Yes. Yeah, it is a literal doorstopper.
Yeah, no, it's funny about King is that, he's really weird about endings, because, he has a hard time, knowing when to stop. There are some of his endings that are good, but sometimes he, adds on, details that you really don't need to know. Or
Yeah.
there's, scenes, you're like, okay, I really didn't need to see this, but that's fine. That's kind of my thing with his end. Or they're just not good. Because some of his endings
Some of them just aren't good, yeah.
And then there's some of them that are just duds, no, I mean, It has a great ending, for one.
I agree.
I think The Stand has a good ending, even though the climax is, we already discussed it.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that.
He can end well, Have you read Under the Dome?
I haven't. That was one I was going to ask you about. Have you read that?
I did a long time ago. I didn't love it. So that was another one. I was like, that's actually one of them. I just didn't vibe with it. It's very much like an allegory about the Bush era, and it's very hammered in. And the idea is cool, but I was just kind of like, eh.
I've heard a lot of mixed emotions about that book. I've heard a lot of people say the story as a whole, except for the ending, is very good.
No,
I've heard a lot of people say what you say. Yeah,
I didn't have strong feelings
definitely.
I didn't have strong feelings about the ending because the build up was just what, the mayor is he's just mayor is a Dick Cheney analog, and I'm like, okay, whatever. His son's a creepy psycho. You're just like, dude. Whatever. I mean, I don't you can go read it. I'm not gonna tell you to not read it, but it's not one of my favorite King works, for sure.
I certainly will at some point, but it is one of the ones that I've been kind of kicking down the road a little bit because it's big. It's a long book.
And I mean, I haven't read all of his stuff. I haven't read what is it? Lizzie's story? Lizzie's story? I don't know.
I think it's Lacey's story, but I don't know for sure.
I haven't read I haven't read his crime stuff. I haven't read his I haven't read The Outsider, though I do. That's one I do want to read because I've heard that one's very good.
So The Outsider, technically, I think, has like I just read Mr. Mercedes, that whole trilogy,
What'd you
and
think of that?
I
I
think
have the first book. I haven't read it though.
I enjoyed it a lot, actually. It was different. I hadn't read any King crime stuff up to that point, and I really enjoyed it. I think the second book, Finders Keepers, was my favorite, but I also enjoyed the first and the third book. And The Outsider, I think, takes place after the Mr.
Yeah, I know
Mercedes
some
trilogy.
of the characters from that series is in The Outsider.
Yeah. So I'm doing. I wanted to do that and then read The Outsider and then If It Bleeds, because his book coming out in September is called Holly. So it's about Holly Gibney, which is a character that's introduced in the Mr. Mercedes trilogy.
Like, I remember trying to read The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. I was also in a really big reading slump at that time, so it didn't work out. But I do want to like give it another try at some point. I don't know if you read that one, but
I haven't. I read recently the only real King book that's been just like a swing and a miss for me is Gwendy's Button Box.
oh yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of that. I haven't read that. That's another one I haven't read of his.
Some people love it, but it didn't work for me at all.
Like, I haven't read like The Wind Through the Keyhole, because I've heard that one.
I read that.
I haven't read Christine or his other car novel because I don't want to. I just find the idea of scary cars to be really tacky.
It does sound kind of tacky. I've not read Christine yet either, but I have it.
I'm like, okay, I know you've made a couple of things. I know you like making stuff that's very innocuous, scary, but cars are death machines, okay? Like, whatever. But like a demon-possessed car, I think that's a bit too far.
I will say that Stephen King he's definitely my most read author, and he's certainly earned my trust. So I will try Christine at some point, because I feel like if someone's going to do it and actually make me able to suspend my disbelief, it would be Stephen King.
Oh, there's plenty of he's written so much. Like, I haven't read like The Institute. I haven't read. Have you read Joe Hill, his son?
No, I tried to download the audiobook for Full Throttle a while back, and it did not work for me. But I think it was just kind of a wrong time. Wrong timing.
Like, you heard it and you didn't like it, or like the download didn't work?
No, I listened to I think 2 of them, and I just wasn't really in the mood for it. I don't know if it was the narrator but so no, I haven't really given him my honest effort.
Horns is very good, from Joe Hill.
What's it called?
Horns. It's about a guy who grows like little horns at his head. It was made into a movie. I really enjoy the book. It is very King-esque. I think you'll like that one. Which is funny.
Didn't he just have another Black Phone? Wasn't that a Joe Hill book?
I think that was one of his stories. I haven't seen that movie, but yeah, I think that was one of his stories. I don't remember. But
I think it might have been like a short story, maybe, or a novella or something.
I also have his.
I've not read or watched it.
I also have his Nosferatu, which is like a vampire book. I haven't read that yet, but someday. That's another one I'm like, all right, I'll try it at some point. Not in any rush, though.
Yeah.
But no, I think you would like Horns. It's very King-esque, and you know how King loves nicknaming stuff. Joe Hill does that a lot. Yeah. Horns.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny when you read King, you pick up all these little like things. Like when you read him, like he loves nicknaming stuff. Yeah,
he's got very funny. Like I just chuckle.
He is funny turn of phrases where you're just like, what?
Yes. Yeah.
I also read the one that was like, it was basically the same idea as Thinner, except that he's like with like a gay couple or something. I forget the name of that, but I liked that one. But there were some people who
by King or by Joe Hill.
That was King.
I can't think of what that one is.
I want to say it's Exhalation, because that's another book entirely. I forget the name. I'll have to look it up later.
Yeah, that one's not ringing a bell.
It's one of his newer ones, so, it's... I haven't read, If It Bleeds or anything like that. I haven't read his newer, his very new stuff. I haven't read any of it. Because I'm like, dude...
I read Fairy Tale when it came out.
I haven't read that. I've heard that one's interesting. I've seen some really mixed reactions to that one.
It's not going to be, one of my all-time favorites, but I thought it was okay.
What else have I... Well, I mean, I've read, his early stuff. Carrie. I think Carrie is actually really rough, honestly, if you really want me... Which I get it, first novel, but, there's good stuff in it, for sure. How, you can bully someone and, they might snap.
Yeah, no, I think it was a good debut novel. I wasn't blown away by Carrie, but I didn't dislike it.
Salem's Lot is good. I enjoy it. It is, like I said, King has a bad habit of dragging stuff out a little too long. Salem's Lot has that problem, but I do enjoy it. Also, I'm not a big vampire guy, but I did like Salem's Lot because I'm like, oh, they're actually scary in this.
Yeah, I enjoyed Salem's Lot a lot.
I have a... Also, I just, I'm kind of on and off of vampires. I like when they're scary,
Yes,
and not
certainly.
just, super emo, misunderstood, I find a lot of that corny as hell.
Yeah, that's not a trope that I typically enjoy either.
You can do vampire angst, fine, but there's just some other ones that's just bad. You can do it really terribly. I do like Salem's Lot. The Shining I like. Have you ever read his Bachman novels?
I have a copy of the Bachman books I found for pretty cheap at a half-price books, but I haven't read any of them yet.
Oh man, that might be some of the darkest. Some of them are probably some of the darkest stuff he's done.
Really?
But back to stuff I haven't read. Mostly his really new stuff. There was a point where I was reading a lot of King, it was maybe several years ago. So yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got back into reading. So I think I've read maybe around 30, between 30 and 35 of his books, which is
my gosh.
Surprisingly not even half. Huh.
Yeah, no, it's
so
when you're as prolific as he is, not all of your books are gonna be bangers. I've learned that from.
Yes.
Then there's some of them have you ever read the Tommy Knockers?
Nope, that's another one of those ones that I've been kicking down the road because it's so long.
It's not good. Even King's
yeah,
not good. He has a real his alien abduction, his alien contact stories are not good. Dreamcatcher is really good, not good, and
I've not read that one either.
Tommy Knockers is not good. You could definitely tell he was on drugs during that time.
That's hilarious.
One of that's funny about Stephen King, one of the stories I've heard about him that just blows my mind every time I hear it is that his drug addiction was so bad, he doesn't even remember writing Cujo.
That's actually crazy.
I'm like, dude, how?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I've not read Cujo either. Have you?
I have. It's good. It's one of his more grounded ones. So.
Okay. From that era.
Yeah. Because King's... one of the things I like about King is that he goes across many different genres. He's not just a horror guy. He does horror very well, but but a lot of my favorite King stuff is actually his non-horror stuff, like Green Mile. Love that book.
I've not read it, but I've watched the movie.
They're both very close, so I mean, if you read the book, you'll probably get the same idea. But
yeah, I want to get to different seasons pretty soon. That's pretty high up on my priority list.
Yeah, I've read like Shawshank and The Body, which is basically Stand By Me. Both of those are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he writes kids very well.
Extremely well. Like believable kids, and that's hard to do.
Like, It has some really great kid characters. Even though they're taking in some really weird directions at some points, because there's some moments in there I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but that whole idea of like the friend group just felt, like I could relate to it, how it all came together, and you just spend so much time with each of them singularly that I don't know, I felt like I just knew them all so intimately.
Another thing I've noticed, King really loves to deconstruct small town America for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Definitely. He's just here's this really idyllic town, but here's the ugly stuff that happens that they don't show you on the movies.
Yep.
I really like that. He really likes that theme. It's here's this town, but here's the dark underbelly of it that you don't see.
I think he does it well too. Salem's Lot's another one we just talked about.
Yeah, no, I find with it's more... I find it's more interesting in it because it's more like the It monster doesn't influence the evil people. They're already doing evil things. They're already, letting awful things happen. They're already, complicit. But it's more like that monster uses that evil and even encourage it. He's like the It monster's just lighting the gas, is putting the gas on the fire, really.
Essentially, yeah.
In Salem's Lot, is more like the vampires manipulating people and doing the old Dracula stuff.
Yes. Creepily.
Yeah.
But yes.
No, I guess it's just I like how it's done in It better. That's a...
I do too. I love both of those books, though.
No, they're good. They're both very good. It's just I like It better because that's great English. But yeah, no, with It, it's more these people are already not good people. It's just the It monster is kind of just putting gas on the fire, pretty much.
Yeah,
it's not really,
feeding off of fear.
It's feeding off of that, yes. Which is also kind of funny. I'm there's not any other decent people aside from the kids. But whatever.
Yeah, not in It. Not very many, at least.
Yeah, no, King's really good at exploring the evil within people.
Oh yeah,
and
certainly.
Not just being psychopathic murderers, but also just how people can just grow complacent and just not be bothered to step in when people are being disgusting to each other.
Yeah, I was just talking recently about how I've kind of realized one of my favorite things that Stephen King kind of tackles is the older, retired man that finds a reason to get really invested in something and just kind of goes balls to the walls with it. I really enjoy when King does something like that.
Yeah, he does do that. I can't think of a book where that happens, but I know what I get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, he did it in Insomnia. Was that kind of trope? The Mr. Mercedes trilogy. I realized I really enjoy that kind of, just he introduces this retired old man that's just kind of living a mundane life, and then all of a sudden something crops up, then he's balls to the wall, back to just
he gets sucked up in it,
Yeah.
So
it's fun.
Also, It plays with a similar thing because when they're all adults,
Yeah. Yep.
Mike, the Mike is the librarian. He's keeping an eye on everything.
Yeah.
It is one of those I would definitely have to do a big discussion on because it's really I don't know how I would do a review on that without just.
Oh, it would be very difficult, I think.
I mean, I could
to make it short.
I would definitely. I think it would be more enjoyable for me to do a discussion on It if I ever get around to doing that.
Yeah, maybe break it into parts or something like that. The parts of the book.
Yeah, just oh yeah, what'd you like about this? But one of the things I like about the It book that the adaptations have just never gotten is how it just the timeline. It's very like it cuts to when they're younger and then it cuts to when they're older and it never feels, you know, how do I put it? It never feels disjointed.
No, I actually really enjoyed the swapping back and forth. It wasn't really jarring to me. It kind of was a very interesting way of like
also it has
building out the characterization.
Also, it has one of my favorite like King horror. Like it has one of my favorite. Just like you say King can't write horror? Here you go. Here's the scene when Georgie talks to Pennywise for the first time. Bam.
Oh yeah.
He can do it.
Yeah, that was terrifying. Actually,
there's some more like horror aficionados who are like, "Oh, King can't write horror well," and I'm like, "Oh yeah." Read the bit where the kid meets the clown for the first time.
One of my favorite
clown for the first time.
Small parts of it that actually I feel like King nails is just like when Georgie and then later when Bill, when they just have to go to the cellar and they're just terrified of like
they did that well in the new movie when he goes down there and the kids that Spill
and you're running upstairs and you feel like something's gonna grab your ankle and
I don't know if
he nails that.
I mean, I don't know if you watched the new the one. I like the one with the kids. For some reason they can't nail it with the adults for whatever reason. But
no, I thought the first one was better too.
Yeah, Bill Skarsgård was so good. Like Tim Curry's good
I agree.
In like the original one, but Bill Skarsgård was so good. Oh my gosh.
It was two different interpretations, really, of Pennywise, and I think Skarsgård's was way more terrifying.
Yeah, no, Tim Curry is great, but like, it's sometimes hard to be scared of him. There's like some.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever watched the original It miniseries they did, but there's some great it is very schlocky now, but I love it. I think it's great. But there are different strengths. Like Tim Curry, like he definitely feels like a clown, you know.
Yes.
While Bill Skarsgård's a little more sinister.
Oh yeah, he killed it. Like, especially a couple of my favorite scenes was when he rips the Adrian dude's arm off, like right in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then the little girl under the bleachers.
Oh man, yeah.
That was terrifying.
Yeah. I remember I was in the theater watching it with some friends of mine, and that scene when he just pops out of the screen, I'm like, oh shit.
Yes. The actual screen, yeah.
I'm like, oh god, you know. Now, I'm not saying Bill Skarsgård couldn't be, like, playful, but I do like how he was almost like, he didn't try to replicate Curry, which is nice, you know, and he killed it. I thought he did very well.
I think he really carved out, his own interpretation of Pennywise, which I really enjoyed.
I like how he uses his body. Now, I know some of it's CG, but I do like how he moves.
Yeah, how he was all folded up in that, like, locker.
Yeah.
Or the closet.
And now I know some of that was probably CG, but just how he kind of could move his body and, like, put it back together is really, I thought was really cool.
No, I agree. I thought he killed it.
Yeah, no. Yeah, maybe I'll invite you to that It discussion. We can do that. Or something like that. I don't know. Because you seem to really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's certainly one of my favorites, and I read it physically.
It's in my top 5 for sure. King
yeah,
books.
Yeah. The audiobook's fantastic for it as well.
I forgot who did the audiobook for it. You know who did the audiobook? I forgot who did it.
I forget. I'm gonna look it up though because I loved it. Who did the?
Also, the trailers for the old It. If you've ever seen the trailers for the old It miniseries, it's very, very goofy.
Steven Weber is the guy.
Weber. I heard that guy. I think he's done a bunch of other audiobooks somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, the original commercials, yeah, they felt like a
Felt like
product
a
of their
fun,
era.
goofy time, with
Yeah,
Pennywise and friends.
yes.
I'm sure Stephen King was just sitting around. He was just like, "Oh my god, they're gonna hate this."
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Hi, kitty.
Yeah, no. My partner in crime, my cat. Hello there. Yeah. Um. Yeah. What are some other series you enjoy? I mean, we've talked about Stephen King a lot, and I've enjoyed it. But like, what are some other series you've enjoyed so far that I might have or might not have heard of and have opinions on?
So, yeah, I'm gonna have to go. Obviously, with Greenbone, I just released a review on that, and I really enjoyed it. I am also trying to break my way into Discworld. I've read the first couple novels of
Also, that's a
Discworld.
monkey.
I That's what I call it. It
They
looks like
what? Well, it says it's a
Mankey
monkey,
from,
but I'm like, that's a monkey. Like that looks like a
yeah, I don't know,
like cat thing. Like what?
a lemur or something.
Something I don't know.
Um, Dresden Files. I've read three of those, and
I have
I'm
not
really
read
enjoying
them.
that.
I have not read those, but I'm definitely planning to because while I don't tend to read longer series, I've heard that they're mostly standalone. So I'm like, okay, I think I can do
You're able to like break off and take some time away, and then come back to it and not feel like you're forgetting a bunch of stuff, which is nice with Dresden. But Realm of the Elderlings is kind of my big one right now. I'm on the third trilogy in that series.
You know what's
Um,
funny? I've heard a lot of Robin Hobb, and I'm definitely going to check her out at some point. I'm not against reading her, but there's some of the copies I've seen and like stateside anyway. It looks like those covers you see at like a Walmart. I'm
they're
like,
yeah, they're bad.
nah. Admittedly, I am a bit of a cover snob, so I might just be tripping on this. But
I think the covers, especially the U.S. mass market paperbacks, certainly do the story contained within them a disservice.
like I hate
They're
the art style. It is so like generic. I'm like, oh my.
Yeah,
No, I'm not against reading them, and I also talked to a friend of mine. He's like, "Yo, they're pretty good," and then there's a great ending, and then repeat, and I'm all like, "Oh, okay," but I'm not against reading Robin Hobb, but I'm that's not one of those other ones. I'm like, I might need to wait for the hype to die down, and then maybe I'll hop in and
yeah,
give my thoughts.
that checks out. So yeah, I'm chipping away at that. I'm chipping away at Dresden, and I just started Malazan, so
How's
it's kind
Malazan
of where I'm
going?
at right now.
I'm always like jokingly getting people to like try to convince me to read it because I'm stubborn. So
I will say, so I finished Gardens of the Moon about 4 days ago, and it is a very unique reading experience. I
I've heard
was
that.
totally okay with, I mean, obviously there's so much hype around Malazan right now, and Erickson as an author, that
I
I
know it's
just trusted
insane.
him.
Yeah,
Um,
that's another one. I'm like, I'm gonna wait for the hype to die, and then like
yeah,
I'll sneak in there.
but I really enjoyed it. It was just very different. The scope is massive,
That is
and
what I've heard. It's
there's
very
just
massive. Let's go.
a lot going on that I was lost, and I'm still not quite sure on some stuff. But the general overall story, I think the
Well, you have a
confusion
massive
level,
community to discuss it with, so I mean, you
yeah,
can take some comfort
I
in
think
that.
my opinion is that the confusion level gets a little bit overblown. So
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who I actually have done some of the discussions with, and he did a Malzahn. He didn't like it, but he was like, no, it wasn't as complicated as some people say it is. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll
yeah,
try it. Kitty, can you not? Just move a little bit. Sorry about that.
no,
Oh
you're
yeah,
good.
I was
They
actually
haven't that.
talking to somebody. I actually watched one of your The Legend of Blackjack. I was actually talking about that with someone else the other day, and it sounded really cool.
That was a really fun read. I highly recommend that.
Yeah, I'm trying to. What's funny about like indie reads is like all I've been on like Facebook or like Twitter or somewhere, and I'll be like, hey, what are some like indie fantasy reads? Recommend them. Then like give it about an hour. There's a couple of people like, hey, would you mind reading my my indie fantasy novel?
Yeah.
I'm a little flustered. I'm like, look, that's great. I love free books, but like, it kind of flusters me because I'm like, really? You want me to do that? Like,
Yeah.
so it kind of makes it awkward for me. Like, you know.
No, it's certainly fun to meet and be able to communicate with some of these authors on a lot of them are on Discords. I've seen and discuss on like DMs on Twitter with a lot of them, and
Yeah,
I just feel bad that I can't get to everybody's works because they all seem like such nice people.
yeah, one of the things I like about BookTube that I've liked so far is it's kind of this little tight knit community. Like, there's no like drama or shit flinging or anything like that. Everyone mostly gets along.
Yeah.
I mean, there is the occasional, like, if, I don't know if you saw like that Brandon Sanderson article that happened a few months ago. But
I did
aside
see
from
that, yeah.
It's, no one really, everyone kind of gets along, and, everyone kind of, it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no, like, drama or anything. There's no, like, here's the tea, it's everyone's getting along.
Yeah, it's been a very welcoming community to me, at least so far, and joining other channels, Discord servers, and just communicating with people in their comment sections. It's been mostly nothing but love and healthy, disagreeable conversations. If I feel differently about something, I'm able to
like,
have
you can
a
disagree,
discourse
but
about
it
it.
won't turn into, like, a flinging contest.
Right, yeah. And I think that's awesome. I really do. It's one of my favorite things about this community.
Yeah. He also covered Piranesi. I bought that. I don't know if I'm gonna read that next year or like sometime later this year. I haven't made up my mind yet, but I've heard that one's very good. So.
Yeah, that's another. If you're in the mood for something different than you've probably read before, that was a very unique experience, and I loved it personally.
Yeah, I mean, I know of the lady who wrote that other book, which is this big chunker called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which I am definitely reading next year. Because I don't know.
Yeah, I read that 2 years ago.
I don't know if I could fit that into this year, but next year, yes.
It's a bit of a project, but I also really enjoyed that one. They're very different. Don't base one off the other.
That's
I would
what I've
say.
heard, which is nice. So yeah. Yeah, I'm like, why hadn't she written anything? And I heard she had like health problems, so I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, let's see what else you got here. So I'm looking at your channel now. Oh, yeah, Blake Crouch is another one I've heard a lot of. Though I'm like, I love science fiction, but I'm kind of picky with sci-fi, and there's like a lot of like kind of popcorny sci-fi, as I like to call it. And like Blake Crouch kind of seems that way, but I don't want to bump him off. Like, I do want to read him, but he's just kind of like, I'm kind of suspicious. If that makes sense.
I've only read one, so I can't really speak to his body of work, but I really enjoyed the one that I read, Dark Matter, and it seemed to me more like a sci-fi thriller.
Yeah,
There was certainly some science concepts involved in it, but it wasn't real heavy on the technical aspects of it.
Well, that's not really what I'm kind of... That's not... I like stuff that's more like about the human condition,
Yeah. There were some cool themes explored, and in Dark Matter, it read really fast, like really quickly. I flew through that book.
I mean, if Stephen King says anything, my liking of Stephen King said, I like stuff about the human condition, so there you go.
Yes.
Now, what else you got on here? Project Hail Mary. I read The Martian from Andy Weir a few years ago. I liked it. I thought it was good. Movie's very good too.
I did the audiobook for Project Hail Mary, and it is up until last month, I believe it was my favorite read this year so far.
Is that the one with Will Wheaton? Did Will Wheaton do it?
I think Ray
he did
Porter.
The Martian. Wait, who did it?
Ray Porter.
Ray Porter. I don't recognize that.
Yeah. He was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
It's funny because, like, it's funny about Will Wheaton. Ready Player One, I do not love that book. I think it was one of the biggest missed opportunities of a book that I have ever read. But that audiobook from Will Wheaton is really fun.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. You'll
I've not read Ready Player One.
You'll like it more as an audio. Like, I'll put it this way: I liked it more when I heard the audiobook than I did when I actually read it.
Okay.
At least in my opinion, you might be different. Everyone's reading taste is different, but it's just like. Because, like, it's weird because Ready Player One's one of those books I'm like, you have this really good idea, and you could really, like, make a great book out of it, and you don't do it. I don't know if you've ever had a book like that, but I've had a couple like that where I'm just like, had a couple of
like a great concept, but a poor execution, or a lackluster execution, rather.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, precisely. Yeah, no, I've even had that case with King. There's just some of the one. Yeah, Under the Dome was that for me. Like, the concept is really interesting, but, like, I didn't love the way it was executed because it's just like, yeah. It's just a weird. It's a weird book because it's not terrible. Like, it's not bad, but I didn't like reading through it. It was not fun.
That's kind of, like I said, why I've been, like, pushing it off a little, because if it was only 200 or 300 pages, sure, I'll give it a shot, but it's a big ask.
I mean, I would say I talked with Jimmy actually about it because he's planning on reading it this October, and I wouldn't say, like, I don't know if I'd say me and Jimmy are friends, but we're like acquaintances, and we talk from time to time. And I'm like, so you're doing Under the Dome? And he's like, yeah, man. And I'm like, well, I don't know how you'll feel about that, but I personally thought it was kind of, I thought it was okay. The Bush hating was pretty explicit, and he's all like, oh, I didn't like Bush myself, so that'll be fine. Just had me a laugh.
Yeah, King, I mean, if you've read any amount of King, you know that he's really not shy about including some of his political beliefs within his writing.
I don't mind that, but it's just kind of like, Under the Dome, it's like,
pretty obvious.
Yeah, no, I don't love it personally. I mean, whatever, it's fine. But it's weird. If I did a review of Under the Dome, it would be a very difficult experience because it's like, God, there's some good stuff there, but there's a lot of dumb stuff in there that I don't like.
Yeah, it seems like that could be said about a number of Stephen King's works in his collection.
Sure, but, like, he's usually very good. Like, he can usually balance it for the most part.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But when he isn't able to do that, you can tell. I'll put it that way. When it comes to that.
Yeah. Sometimes he just misses the mark.
I don't know if you've had that experience with King, but I definitely have, where it's like, he didn't quite do it this time. So sorry.
Yeah, like you said, with the amount of novels that he's written, there's bound to be some misses and stuff that just maybe is not for you. Like I said, a lot of people love the Gwendy's Button Box series, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing I could say about Under the Dome. It wasn't for me. And that's fine. Okay. And that's fine, but it's just like, it didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. That's just, I'm like I said earlier, I'm like, when you write like 75 books, not all of them are going to be bangers, okay? Like,
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. You covered Dresden Files. Oh, wow, so you just did the first book of Fondly, and then you're just like, screw it, I'll just do the rest of them. I'll just put them all in the one video. I like that.
Yeah, I kind of felt similarly about the first three, and not enough that would warrant a single book review for each of them, but I just kind of wanted to touch on my overall thoughts starting the series, because I know as the series progresses, people say that it gets a lot more in-depth, and, the world kind of grows along Butcher as he, progresses through the series. So maybe as I progress through, I'll do some single book reviews. But the first three were
that might be a good idea to do for if you ever cover for like if or when you cover First Law, because like it is like a bit like it's more like because you might kind of repeat yourself after a while, so you might. Not telling you how to do your videos, but I'm just saying, like, it might...
Oh, yeah.
Just, like, a recommendation, because I did 3 separate reviews, and I'm kind of like, well, I'm kind of repeating myself. So...
Yeah. I think that's, you run the risk of doing that occasionally if there's not enough of a different feel for a few books in a series, or,
You also did your, what was the other one? Top 10 favorite reads the first half of this year. So
yeah,
I watched a little bit of that. I didn't watch the whole thing. So like what?
Yeah, I did the mid-year freakout tag, but I also just kind of wanted to talk about some of my favorite reads of the year. And what I want to do is just I picked 10 books from the first half, and I want to do 10 books in December for the second half, and then in January maybe try to use both of those lists and try to come up with somehow my 10 favorite reads of the year based on just those 2 lists.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really picky with tags, but I did a mid-year freakout tag, so I'm like, why not?
It's a fun one.
Yeah. Might do the Led Zeppelin one because I do like that band, but
yeah, I did that one too.
Yeah, I saw that. That was why I'm like, someone I think Mike.
I enjoyed doing tags. I mean, I didn't know how I was going to feel about them when I started the channel, but they're a fun way to kind of engage with the community and talk about a number of books in a brief way.
Yeah, no, it's fun to do. Or I thought it was fun to do when I did it. Though there was some books I forgot, so I had to re-record it. That was not fun. But
I've had to do that a couple of times as well.
Like what books did you pick for that top 10 that you did? Because I didn't watch
the
whole thing.
I did. It was kind of just more of a objectively like my favorite books, but I read the Return of the King. Ended up
that's right. Yeah.
Starting that, so that was one of my favorites. Dark Matter was on there. The whole Live Ship Traders trilogy made it on there because I just really enjoyed that. Paranesi was on there. Philip Chase's book, The Way of Edan. The first one, I haven't read The Prophet of Edan yet, but I read The Way of Edan.
To read that trilogy.
Yeah, just kind of bang them out. I really enjoyed the Way of Edan a lot.
I had Philip Chase on here. That was a fun one. I enjoyed that episode quite a bit.
That must have been fun to discuss books with him because he's so knowledgeable.
Yeah, no, that was a great.
I put A Storm of Swords was on there. I mean, that book was just crazy. Just
no,
absolutely
it's
insane.
Hard to beat George R. R. Martin in terms of like epic fantasy. Anyway.
Yeah, and then Project Hail Mary.
Yep. Yeah, no. Those are all good picks. Yeah, I need to read Project Hail Mary. I've heard it's similar to The Martian, and I'm like, well, okay, that could mean... Because I've heard he did one called Artemis that was kind of lukewarm.
Yeah, so Project Hail Mary is the only weird book I've read, so I didn't have the Martian feeling similar thing going on, which
you'll like The Martian.
Maybe helped me out.
If you like Project Hail Mary, you'll like The Martian.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get to it at some point. I think part of it was doing the audiobook because it was just, I think that was one of the rare cases where the audiobook, to me, I think was a better experience than the physical read.
I've kind of noticed with Andy Weir, like he has a shtick, and he's good at that shtick, so he's keeping with it. Which, that's fine, but at the same time, I do kind of find that boring a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know how I would feel if I read The Martian now because I've read Hail Mary, and
I think you'll like it.
A lot of people say the same thing.
I mean, I think you'll like it. It's not really, it's not a bad book by any means. There are science fiction books I would recommend over The Martian, but I do like The Martian. I think it's worth the read. Yeah,
like you said, Andy Weir seems to have found a a little shtick that he has, and he's good at it, and there's nothing wrong with that. People are fans, and he's, creating fun books for people to read.
It's it's like Liberace used to say. It's oh, here, let me cry while I go to the bank. The joke's on us. No, not really.
I think they're actually working on an adaptation for Project Hail Mary too, so that would be fun.
The movie The Martian was very good.
I like the movie. I have seen the movie The Martian. I've not read the book though.
Yeah, the book's pretty much similar. It's just it's more like it's Mark Watney perspective.
Okay.
Or it's Matt Damon's character's perspective through the whole thing. So there's not really much of there's not really the other stuff that's going on Earth.
Okay.
Which is fine.
Yeah, see, Project Hail Mary was fairly similar.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, Martian's good. I like how he... Because a lot of the thing with science fiction is that a lot of it is about the ideas, and here's how this science would work in the future. And it's kind of a double-edged sword for me. Like, sometimes it's interesting, and sometimes it's just not. I do like how Andy Weir makes it. He explains it just enough, but it's not like overly explained. It's not like an Asimov book where it's just like, here's all this science.
Yeah, I kind of touched on that in my review too. Like the science, it's there, but it's not. It doesn't make you feel like you have to have a degree in one of the sciences to really follow the story. Like I'm sure if you wanted to fact check it and it seemed like the stuff made sense, it was fun to read about, but I wasn't too worried about the logistics of it.
Like if I could recommend like good like hard science fiction, like I would say that I would say Weir is not a bad direction to go, pretty much. Because his science is like he explains it just enough to where it's plausible, so you're not like, what? Like that's stupid. But
yeah, that's how I felt with Project Hail Mary.
He doesn't overly explain. Now again, I have not read Project Hail Mary. I will do it, but it's just I haven't gotten around to it. It is what it is.
Yeah, there's always books to get to.
What are some stuff you're planning on covering in the future on your channel? I'd like to ask this to people.
I'd like to get into some more discussion-based things. I've been doing some book discussions with Ben over at Books with Bengus Khan as we read through the Realm of the Elderlings.
I see him on. I don't mean to interrupt you, by the way. I'm sorry, but
no, you're good.
I've seen him on. I've seen him on my in Discord, and I just see his name and I just laugh.
He's awesome. I love Ben. He's got a fantastic channel as well, and some really good insights on stuff. And so I'd like to do some more long form content. I know reviews don't always perform well, but I enjoy doing them. I enjoy kind of internalizing the way I felt about a book and just kind of discussing. And I've found that even though reviews maybe don't pump out as many views as other types of videos, I tend to have formed more relationships over reviews and had some deeper conversations with people based on them reading the book and enjoying it and wanting to discuss. So I like doing reviews. I probably will continue doing reviews for the foreseeable future.
Oh yeah.
But that's kind of what I based my channel around, more or less. But
I'll definitely
I'd say
consider you if I do a it discussion in October, because
keep me posted.
Yeah, because that's one I'm definitely probably gonna do a discussion on it, because I'm not gonna try and review that. I could, but I'm not going to. I don't want to.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about in that book.
Yeah, no, it's it's a big boy, so there is a lot to talk about.
Ooh, yeah.
So basically, you'd like to do what we're doing right now, pretty much.
Yeah, yep. About specific books, or just any kind of long form discussions. I feel like,
dude, can you believe that
I've gotten to
3 months away. That's crazy.
No, it's everything moves too quickly.
I'm like, dude, it was January yesterday. What happened here? It was.
I know.
June flew by. I was like, dude, what?
It really did, especially in the summertime with the little kiddo. They keep you busy.
I mean, I do not have the kids, at least yet, but I was like, what?
Yeah, I mean it's a blast, but it's obviously a lot of work.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know what it's like being a parent. I have parents, but you know, I'm 22. I don't have kids yet. I'd like to wait a bit before I have kids. I'll put it that way.
That makes sense. I think that's a responsible decision.
I'm like, dude, having a kid, if I had a kid right now, my parents would walk in and look like, "What are you guys talking about?" But I'm like, I'm just being real, dude. If I had if I had a kid right now, it would not. I wouldn't say it wouldn't be fun, but it would be tough. It'd be very tough.
Oh yeah, I think human beings have a way of adapting to situations when put into them,
I mean, I'm sure,
and I have faith that you would.
but I'll put it this way: I'm not planning on it at the moment, and I have no plans until at least my late 20s or like early 30s.
That's smart. Enjoy your free time while you have it.
My cousin's getting married in August. Okay, like I'm not getting
Yeah.
married. I am not getting I'm not having kids yet. I mean, if you do that when you're younger, that's fine. Like, I'm not like judging anybody, but you know, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how old you are, but you know,
28.
you're 28. Okay, I thought you were in your 20s somewhere, 30s maybe. I don't know. But,
Yep. 28.
But no, I'm like, dude, I'm not having kids yet. I'm gonna wait a minute.
That's a smart decision. Wait till you're ready, or you feel ready at least.
I mean, I don't know how it happened for you, but you know, I'm personally, I'm not gonna do it yet.
I'm actually a stepfather, so.
Oh, you're a stepfather. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. That I was about to say. So you must have been like 22 when she was born.
Yes, one of the greatest additional blessings that I've acquired.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a blessing. Is what my parents like to say. One thing I wanted to bring up that I wanted to talk about before we leave here. I know you mentioned America's Got Talent earlier, and like that we were just talking about that, and that just made me think of. Did you see that one with the blind dude who could play the piano and it was like baller?
No, I haven't seen that one.
His name's Cody, I think. It was like an Asian.
Oh,
guy.
actually, yeah, Cody Ko. Yep.
That was so good.
Yeah, he was incredible.
Talk about a tearjerker. Like, that almost got me. That's almost got me
Yep.
a few times. I think it has gotten me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he was incredible. I actually do remember seeing clips of him. I don't always watch the show. I mainly just watch clips of, the clips that blow up, but they get me, man. Those golden buzzer shows, they get me in the
I was
feels.
about to say, he did get a golden buzzer, so I'm like, I don't know if you've seen it, but, like, you see him at first, you're like, oh, well, okay. He seems kind of...
Yeah, he was incredible.
And then he gets on the piano, I'm like, oh my gosh. He's killed it. Oh, man. But no, yeah, no. But I think that is it. I very much enjoyed this. I'm glad we could scrap this together. We were going to do this on Tuesday, but he was having some health issues, so
Yeah.
made it work. Would you like to share anything before we get moving, before we go?
I just really want to thank you for inviting me on. I'm glad that I felt better today and could come and chat with you. Like I said, I really enjoy doing these long-form conversations. I feel like I get to know other creators this way.
Yeah.
I mean, we watch each other as talking heads in a sense, but these less structured long-form discussions are where I really felt like I've gotten to know other booktubers, even just watching them. And so I appreciate the opportunity for coming on the channel, and this was a lot of fun.
All right. You don't have like Twitter or anything like that, or is it just YouTube at the moment?
I have Instagram. I think they're all Colin's Corner or it's Colin's Corner. Let me check real quick.
Because I'm gonna link it when I eventually upload this.
I can message you them on Discord too.
Oh,
What my
okay.
names are, but
That's fine.
my Twitter is I'm an unprepared Colin's Corner YT.
Fair enough.
So that's where to find me on Twitter. Colin's Corner, if you type it in on YouTube, you have to type in the YT. I always tell people there's a tech channel called Colin's Corner as well. So we need to hit the search for Colin's Corner. We need to usurp him so that I come up first when you type in Colin's Corner. But it's Colin with one L, so Colin's Corner YT. You can find me there. I do book reviews and some tag videos and wrap-ups, TBRs. And yeah, you can find me on Instagram as well. All my socials are also linked in the details, the descriptions of my videos. So.
Well, yeah, that's about all I got for today. We should do this again at some point. It's very much.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for having me on.
If you could tell already, I also enjoy having these long-form discussions, and I have a lot of free time right now before my college starts, so I had a lot more time to do these. So thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
No problem whatsoever, man. Thank you.
All right. I hope everyone enjoyed this. And until next episode. See you guys later.
See you guys.